Millie, here we are, brother.
What's up, Rhys?
Another episode of the Stay Brave podcast.
It's nice to have you back in the seat. It was
Thank
nice
you.
to have Brenton in the seat.
No, it wasn't.
No, I've got good feedback about that episode.
Yeah, no, people said it was an awesome episode. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'll get around to it now that everything's slowing down. But yeah, it's good to be back. How you going?
I'm wrecked. Do you want the
that's
political
exactly
answer or the authentic answer?
No, fuck it. Just give it to me, raw dog.
No, I'm cooked.
Yeah. It's been a fucking big end of the year for you, especially, my lord. Did you really recap it? Did you do any recapping of everything you've been up to in the last episode with Brenton, all together? Or was that before you went to Thailand?
It was before.
Oh yeah,
I think, but we touched on it.
Yeah. Well, for those who don't know, Miles has had a hell of a last couple of weeks. Hell good, hell awesome. Last couple of weeks as our head coach here at Combat Training Center. If you're watching, you can see our beautiful sign back there. We've done a little rearrange here in the podcast studio / our gym. But 12 fights all up. Yep. Over a couple of weeks, 2 nights, and then...
it was like a 7-day period.
Yeah. 7 day. Oh my God. So you went over to Thailand with Rhys and had a grand old time over there and come back with something pretty cool.
Yep.
Tell us about Thailand. That sounds sus, didn't it?
Yeah, no, it was awesome, man. So Rhys McLaren is an MMA professional who fights in One Championship, and One Championship is Asia's biggest mixed martial arts promotion. It is the most watched MMA promotion in the whole world. You might think that UFC is, but One have a lot more coverage. And Rhys has been fighting in the top 5 for the last 9 years for that promotion.
Crazy.
So that was his 17th fight for One. And he was fighting a current world champion in Jared Brooks, but he was the champion of the division below. So he wanted to come up and challenge Rhys for a number 1 contender spot so that he could achieve double gold status. But Rhys closed the door on that dream.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. In just vicious fashion, in beautiful fashion. And he went in there saying that he wanted to make this one vicious. That was the word that he had in his mind of what he wanted to showcase in that fight. And he did. He had Jared, his opponent, completely bloody. His whole face was bloody. And I was fortunate enough to be gifted his fight shorts with his opponent's blood all over them.
Fantastic.
To be framed and put up here in the gym.
Amazing. Wow, what a nice gift. Thank you so much. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty fucking awesome.
I even said it and posted it on my Instagram at the time. I was like, isn't it so strange that we are just so thankful for these types of gifts, like a fight shirt or some shorts or some gloves or some wraps that are just completely full of someone else's blood.
Yeah.
And we're just what it symbolizes.
Dude, it is such a meaningful thing. Yeah. It's like your armor.
Yeah.
And it's here, look what we did. It's fucking awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like what word did you say he wanted to make it?
Vicious. He wanted to make it vicious.
It's so cool that there's such power when you I find when you dial in on almost a theme like that.
Yes.
And you let that drive you, that can be so powerful, eh?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's mad.
And I feel anytime our guys have a fight camp and go through a fight camp and they're facing a particular opponent, I definitely feel there is certain words that can encompass how they're feeling, what their strategy is and the approach that they're taking against their opponent. There's always sort of a camp word for each of the fighters that we use, and then sort of when you meet them at the cage just before they're about to go in, and you sort of remind them of that word and
100%.
What we were doing this for, and and I said it. I was like, right, man, you ready to make this one vicious? And another reason was Rhys's thumb on his right hand, which is a huge weapon of his, was broken. When he got the call up, and it was a short notice call up. So he only had 4 weeks to prepare. He was quite heavy at the start of the camp, I won't lie. So Brenton and I just thrust him into an intense energy system schedule and program, and then we just worked around his broken thumb. But versing like a world-class wrestler, it was very hard to like obviously get him to do lots of wrestling and sprawling and sort of stuff like that. But we made it work, and we focused a lot on his elbows, and his elbows were definitely
they were golden.
Yeah, the difference in that fight.
Good.
And
yeah.
So no, that was fun.
No, that's awesome, man. It's a pretty sick way to end the year. I know that you are straight back here, straight back into everything we've got going on with CMBT nutrition.
That being said,
yeah.
Can we hold that thought?
I will hold it.
And I appreciate you putting some light on me at the moment, but can I do something nice for you?
Sure.
So what I'm going to do, Rhys, in front of everyone here on the potty, how long have you been working with us, Rhys?
Since I think I did my marketing internship with you guys at Hype when I was, I think maybe it was 2020, end of 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
I thought it was about 4 years, something around there. So Rhys been with us for 4 years, and anyone that knows Rhys as part of our community, and you can even tell when you listen to him on the podcast, like how much of an integral part of our CMBT brand he is. And I've always said it, that, you know, you can never go far alone. And if you're trying to create anything of any substance, of any value, you know, you need good people around you. And you've been a good person around me and around CMBT, and you've really made it so special. And I've always said as well, like, nothing successful comes as a right. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to build something of success, and it takes a lot of hard work. And sometimes hard work is hard to reward. You know, some people might think, oh, there's pay rises, there's things and that, but sometimes even pay rises and money don't sort of symbolize the value that someone brings to your organization, to your mission and all that. And we're obviously pretty close. And you live the mission, and you believe in the mission, and you're such an integral part of our gym community and our nutrition community. And so I'm really excited to welcome you as a shareholder of CMBT. So I have your official shareholder certificate with me.
Dude.
That I'd like to present to you in front of the potty.
There you go. Holy shit. Bro, thank you so much.
Welcome to the Owners Club.
Oh,
Rhys.
man.
And I have one more special gift for you.
I hate getting gifts. Especially in front of you. What the fuck?
So this is
Bro.
your official owner's medallion.
Sick, man.
Very rare.
Can I hold it to the camera? I don't know
Yep.
if anyone's going to see that. That's proper booty. I didn't even know these existed. Look at that. Bro, thank you so much.
My
This
pleasure.
is sick.
My
Here
pleasure,
in
man.
front of the potty, goddamn.
Had to do it in front of the potty. Had to be known. Your specialness had to be known. Everyone already knows it anyway. But for those who don't know, we've brought Rhys, and we've also brought James Sargison, who is our grappling coach here at CMBT Training Centre as a shareholder in CMBT Holdings as well. And CMBT Holdings owns the nutrition brand and the gym as well. So, we can't do this without people like Rhys and James. And it's just so much fun, so much more fun when you're on a journey with people who you love hanging out with, and when you're all working towards a mission together. And, Sel and myself have always said it's way better to have a small piece of something valuable than a large piece of something not so valuable. And you and James make this so much more valuable. So we're so excited
cool. Thank you so much. It's so amazing
to have you along the journey.
Oh, dude. I love you, bro.
Love you, bro.
Oh, you're the man. Oh, jeez. All right, I'm going to put that.
Got you a box of bars too.
Fucking oath. Hand
Just
them
for
over.
Chrissy.
Hand them over.
I know that you can get these
you,
anytime you want, but
hell yeah.
Here's a box of bars.
Dude, thanks so much. I had to do it here on the podcast to make me feel all embarrassed. You're so sweet, bro. Thank you so much. That's so cool.
All right, sorry, before I rudely interrupted, where were you going with
I
this
don't know.
potty?
You told me to hold the thought, but it's hard to hold a thought after that. Man, like, well, that's pretty amazing. But like coming into the end of the year, like I know that what I was going to bring up was it's cool because obviously this is the time of year where everyone's sort of thinking about who they want to be the next year and where they want to be, who they want to be, what they want to achieve. And it's quite like, I find it's like quite exciting. Like aside from like, sure, everyone's like pretty tired, pretty ready for the end of the year, pretty ready for a little break. But like, I can just feel like this excited energy when I interact with people. I don't know if it's the same for you. Maybe it's especially because like here at the gym, we've got our new like novice guys who haven't fought before getting really excited to nominate for their first fights coming up in February, which is super cool to see. And it's had me thinking a lot about like how you feel and your mindset at the start of journeys like this. Like someone who hasn't done martial arts, I recommend it to everyone that they do, but like when you're at the start of the journey, there's so much you don't know and you just learn all these little incremental bits. And it made me just sort of reflect on like the start of my journey and on the theme of like the new beginning of the year and that sort of thing. And one of the things I was thinking about was toughness. Mm-hmm. Like as a term, toughness is this thing that seemed really unachievable to me as a young man, like as a teenager, because I really believed it was something you had to be born with.
Interesting.
And for me, that came in the form of like being tough, like in like quite a physical setting, which is like combat sports. But really, toughness is like the ability to deal with adversity in any sense. Like you have to be tough to get through life and not crumble, essentially. So I've been thinking about that and sort of like to blow some more smoke at you. You are like one of the toughest people that I can think of, like that I know, in the sense that you deal with so much all the time. So here's the thing, like I thought that toughness was something you had to be born with. So for me, it seemed very out of my reach for a long period of time. And at some point I realized that by doing all the hard things that I thought I couldn't do in sport, but also in life, like university, in my professional life, by doing all those things incrementally and sort of not even really realizing and thinking about it as I go, I got to this point where I was like, hold on a minute. I've sort of achieved this thing that I thought I wasn't capable of, like to say like literally like I'm quite tough now. Like I've become hardened to the adversities that I've faced. And I immediately felt like this sort of sense of pride and this sense of like I can do anything now. Mm-hmm. And it's been interesting for me to reflect on this, like this whole thing where I started at one place in the journey and without realizing it, I got to the end place where I became what I wanted to, but there was surely these little points along the way without me realizing it where I would have achieved sort of like milestones if I had been reflecting and paying attention to it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have been through like a massive journey with business and martial arts and that sort of thing. Do you like throughout these points in your journey, like say when you first like left law and you started CMBT, you started athletic agencies, also known as Hype Group, once it turned into that, did you feel like at the start of your journey, because you built it from the bottom up, that did you feel capable to face everything that you needed to face along the way, or did your mindset sort of shift at different stages as you worked your way up to where you are now?
I think your mindset definitely shifts.
Yeah.
And I think that with every challenge that you face, no matter what you're doing, you uncover another layer of experience and wisdom that you can only get through doing the things and going through the wars or going through the storms, for an example. Asking me specifically at that stage of the journey whether I had the, to use your words, toughness or the whether I had the mindset that I could achieve anything. I was already there at that stage in my mind. I think that a lot of traumatic events in my past, as well as how I responded to those events, and then some of the wins that I had along the journey, allowed me to realize that I could get through anything. I used to say quite heavily that I can only control what I can control. I can't control what I can't, and I'll leave that, and I'll only just do what I can. And I thought that was very empowering for myself. And then I also used to say to myself, even if I was left with absolutely nothing and I was in a gutter by myself, I would still survive. And so that is not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that you die.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's final. Yeah. There's finality with that. Whereas if I find myself in a gutter with nothing, there's no finality to that. I'm still there. I still have opportunity, and I just have more wisdom and more experience and more ability to not make the same decisions that I did. And so I've always had that. I've always felt empowered about that. If it wasn't going to kill me, it was only going to make me stronger. And I also have always been confident enough and had the self-esteem and also somewhat delusion in some aspects where I believe that I can achieve anything. But at the same time, I also have the mindset where I know that I don't know enough. So I'm eternally curious, and I'm always trying to find new answers and trying to find new levels and efficiencies and ways of doing things. So I think you need to be confident with who you are and where you are in life, but also knowing that you have a lot to learn, a lot to achieve, a lot of opportunities in front of you. And then, like you said as well, being able to reflect and look at what you have done in the past can also give you that gratitude to show you how far you've come.
Yeah, for sure.
So that, it's not always, how far ahead you're looking, it's actually how far you've come.
For sure.
So it's always been sort of like a amalgamation of all of those different types of thought processes.
Totally. Yeah. That's good. It's cool that you mentioned like confidence, because I feel like confidence is sort of that's actually one that I've been thinking about a lot lately, like having the like where does confidence come from? And you like said it yourself there. It's sort of like a build up of like the past events almost that you've done. And I think like it's runs very parallel to the toughness, air quotes, that we've been talking about, like I mentioned before. It's like
I think that if I can, I think that no matter what word we use, whether it's toughness, whether it's confidence, whether it's self-esteem and what we say to ourselves, there is no denying that if you just keep the promises that you tell yourself, if you keep the promises that you tell to yourself, you're only going to build confidence and self-esteem from that. If you promise to yourself that you're going to get up in the morning to do your workout and you do it, that's a little win for your self-esteem. And you don't even realize how important this is. If you make a promise to yourself that you are going to try your best in this test and you're going to try and go to uni, or I'm going to try and start this business or whatever it is, if you're just making these promises to yourselves and you're constantly fulfilling them, or at least like putting action towards them and not avoiding them, that is where self-esteem is built. And so if you're someone who has, over a period of time, constantly kept the promises that you've made for yourself, you're going to have self-esteem. You're going to know that you can achieve things. That's discipline. Yep. It's building habits.
Like never letting yourself down.
Never letting yourself down. That is the most important thing, because the moment that you start going against the promises or not fulfilling the promises that you set for yourself, that's when your internal self actually starts to distrust your actual self, your subconscious. You actually don't trust yourself anymore.
No, yeah.
And then you become comfortable saying that you'll do things, even though you don't necessarily have the intention of doing it.
Yeah.
You might even have the intention of doing it, but you allow yourself not to do it if the feeling comes over you that you don't feel like in the moment you want to do it. And so I think this is a big difference between people who are able to achieve success and those who don't. And that is, it starts with your self-esteem and what's inside.
Fuck, that's such a good point. And that's not one you hear often, like keeping the promises that you make to yourself. Often it's framed like, I often don't like how people frame like discipline. Like, I feel like they make it sort of like,
militant, like a military thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if I'm disengaged from what I'm doing, for example, like going for a workout, if I'm not in touch, like disengaged from what I'm doing, even if I'm disciplined enough to go for my workout, it still doesn't feel good. Like I feel like people trick each other a little bit into the discipline thing where it's like you just go out and you just get it done, and people fail to mention that there's sort of like a little bit of a softer side where it's like you said, you're keeping the promise to yourself. You have to understand what you're working towards and what you're doing to get that positive reinforcement, to get that feedback loop. I've done it heaps of times where I've gone for my workout, but I've just been disconnected from the process of what I'm doing and not present, and it just doesn't make me feel good. It just makes me feel like whatever. So I think staying present and staying like understanding why you're doing it is a really important part.
And at the same time, don't make promises you don't intend to keep or don't want to keep.
Yeah.
Meaning, if you think that there is a chance that you aren't going to fulfill this promise, don't make it. Just do yourself a favor of not making this promise. And a lot of that time is that promise, it might even be expressed to someone else. Like, I will meet you at this place at this time. When you're like, oh, I didn't really want to do that. I'm just kind of doing that for them. Or
trying to people please. And
please and stuff. Like, I think if you're coming into 2025 and you feel like that's you, where a lot of the time you're like making promises and you're either feeling bad about them or when you fulfill them, or you are not fulfilling them because of that feeling as well. How about you just say no? Or how about you just don't make a promise? How about you just say, we'll see, I've got a few things on, like, can I get back to you later or something? Like, I think a lot of us are so quick to commit expression to something, or like commit to someone else or to an event or something like that, where you don't have to. Because then anytime you commit to something but then you don't do it, that ruins your integrity. So not only is it affecting your self-esteem and your trust for your own self, it's also having an effect on your reputation to people on the outside and the way that they perceive you and your integrity. And that is also going to have an effect on your ability to succeed or progress, not only internally, but now externally.
For sure.
Right?
For sure, yeah. I think it's a pretty, like, something I think you mentioned subconscious before, like, pretty much everything that we do is training subconscious in some way. Like, I like to think of it as like a separate person. I can't remember who I listened to that talked about it like this, but you teach your subconscious with self-talk. And like you said, you teach it with actions as well. So if you're making and breaking a promise to your subconscious, like even if you say something like in a joking sense, like, oh, I fucking hate myself for that. Like, it's not good to do that, because your subconscious doesn't know that you're joking. And then over time, that builds up these little mental habits.
Your self-talk is by far one of the most important things. That is something I feel extremely strongly about. And so especially people within our team, people I care about, if I see them speaking negatively about themselves, I pull them up straight away. I pulled one of the boys up today. One of the boys today said, oh, I'm like enjoying working with you. I wish I could have a chat to you, but like I'm not as intelligent as you. I said, bro, like, I was like, what are you talking about?
The stories
like,
we
hey,
tell
stop.
ourselves, eh?
Yeah, I was like, can you just stop right there? Like, can you never say that again?
Dude,
like,
how often do you hear shit like that?
Yeah.
Like, it's gnarly. Like,
can't do it.
Yeah, no, you can't.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
And like, people think this is weird, but like when I've done coaching with people before, I said to them like, look, man, I want you to go into the mirror. This is some of that woo-woo stuff, but like it's so legit. Said like, everything I've heard you say right now, all the problems you've brought up to me, all of the walls, all of the reasons why you can't achieve what you're wanting to achieve, it's all from within. Like it's all just a byproduct of your lack of self-esteem, confidence in yourself, lack of trust that you're going to fulfill the promises that you're making to yourself, like all of those things. I said, you know what you need to do? I said, you need to go in the mirror, look into your own eyes. Because I bet you don't do that very often. You look at your hair, you look at your body, like aesthetically, but you don't look into your eyes and you don't go, I love you for who you are in this moment, right now, what you've achieved, the hardships that you've gone through, and I know that I can achieve what I want to achieve with what I have on me right now, my body, my brain, my heart, all these sorts of things. And start talking to your own consciousness or subconscious and telling it what it deserves to hear, because you'd be so surprised what it gives you back. And I'm really strong on that. So like a lot of people would say to me, I'm not an overly, it's not that I try not to be, but I don't feel like I'm an overly arrogant person. However, if you asked me what I was saying to myself in my own head, you would be blown away. Like, and I'm more than comfortable to say it because it's not who I am on the outside. But like I say to myself, like, you're the greatest. Like, you can do it. You can do anything. Yep. You're going to get through this hardship. Man, if anyone can do it, you can do it. Like, so these are all the things that I say to myself. And so when people say to me, like, for example, oh, you've been through this, you've been through that, or how have you achieved this, or how have we built this? It's like, because I just tell myself I can.
Yeah.
Because why not?
100%.
Because when you look at the people who have achieved great things, why are they any different to you? Like, one of my mentors, he used to say, he's a guy like me. Why can't I achieve success that person has done? He's just a guy like me. Yeah. And, you know, like, and when you talk to people that have achieved, you talk to Alex Volkanovski, one of the greatest fighters of all time. The way he talks is he just goes, mate, I'm just an average bloke like everyone from a small town in rural New South Wales. You know, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I think that just that part about self-talk is just the most important thing ever. Yeah. Like, and
I think that if the more negative self-talk you have, the more positive self-talk you need. It's like physics. Like, these chairs keep us from falling to the floor because they're pushing up on us harder than we're pushing down on them. You have to get your positive self-talk pushing harder on your negative self-talk than it is. So the louder that it is, the more you need to work on it. I can speak to that 100% because my head was filled with negative self-talk the whole way through my journey at uni and when I was fighting as well. It was gnarly. I was mental. Like,
I'll be surprised if you weren't fighting where your life would have taken you. And I'm sure it would have been in a negative route. And I'm sure that your martial arts actually kept you, you know, 100%. Sort of sane to a certain degree, because when we are challenged or faced with hardships, a lot of us go into a fight or flight scenario, which is not necessarily an intelligent state of being, right? It's an instinctual state of being.
Yeah.
So, you know, some of us have a stronger ability to control our intelligence during those types of hardships and feeling that state of fight or flight, but a lot of us just go straight into our subconscious. And so if you're telling yourself that you're not worthy, that you're not tough, if you're not this, if you're not that, if you can't get through this, anytime you're faced with a challenge, especially a challenge that you're out of control of, which is like creates a lot of stress and anxiety and puts you in that state where you aren't intelligent and you aren't able to control these thoughts, what's going to come up? The internal dialogue, the internal beliefs and things are going to take over. And how are you supposed to get through those challenges if you're telling yourself those things? You can't. So like, we need to, just as much as we need to prepare our body for hard times, we want to be harder to kill, right? You need to prepare your mind and your soul for those times as well. And if
to break.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen strong men break?
Yeah.
Because it's really what's within.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, that's going to affect what's without.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can train it, but you have to want it. I think it's
a
like
skill.
Yeah. I think it's come back to what you said before about fulfilling the promises to yourself. And I sort of said, like, keep your mind on the journey, like where your discipline is taking you. I think that's a part of it as well. Like the end goal in mind is really helpful, I think. On that note, 2025, how are you feeling about where you are now versus where you want to be?
I feel like I feel as no different. I feel that I don't have starts and stops. I'm not seeing this as an end of a year, which means that I get a break now, and that means we restart in 2025 and try again. I think that it's just another day and we're one foot in front of the other. And I think that we are far away from where I can see where we're going to go. And I see that there's a lot of work, a lot of discipline, a lot of commitment, a lot of resources, energy, time, blood, sweat and tears, storms, wars that we need to get through before we reach the value that I think we can provide. And so I think that this is just a moment where I think I need to take a page out of our own book and try and just reflect on and find some gratitude on how far we've come and what we've been able to achieve. I mean, the fact that we're even able to do a podcast in our own gym and things like that is cool as hell.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I just need to just be proud of that because I think I'm one of those people who just always is just trying to get to the next thing, and I know that we can be better. And so, you know, I've already been talking to Brenton about better programs for the fight team. You know, I've been talking to Jesse about better kids program. I've been talking to Sel about better nutritional formulas, and with our food scientists and dietitians and things like that. Like, what can we do better? I'm talking to some of our athletes on what we can do better. So I think I'm just on the forever journey. And I think at this time of year, if anything, it actually makes me feel, if I'm honest, like quite different to a lot of people. And so I feel a little bit vulnerable in these times. I feel a bit lonely. I feel a little bit conflicted as to like who I am as a human, because and how I think society should be acting and working together and things like that. Because like in these times where everyone's gearing up for holidays and, you know, stopping work and things, like I just start going harder. And it's just been that way every year for as long as I can remember. And I get frustrated because I sometimes think like, why does everything have to stop? You know, we got to keep going.
Yeah.
And so I do find these Christmas periods like my time where I get ahead. Like if there's 2 weeks where I'm uninterrupted and I can just like focus on processes, systems, strategies, things like that, like I just come into the new year just firing, like so far ahead. But you know, there's also a lot of like physical things that I want done, and I want to renovate the gym and I want to renovate our office space and all these sorts of things, but no one's around to work or wants to work, so I need to respect that as well. But yeah, it's a very conflicting, interesting time for my brain and psychology during these periods. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling weird.
Yeah. I think everyone, especially at this time of year, wants to seem to everyone else like they've got a heap of grandiose plans for the year ahead, as well as puffing up everything that they've done in the year before. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be proud of the things that you do. I think you definitely should, but it's one of those things where it's sort of like, what action are you going to take to make the most of your motivation heading into the new year? So I think like start of year motivation is good. I've been thinking a lot about like setting the bar high. I think it's always good to ride the motivation when you've got it and keep on slogging when you don't have it, because like you know as well as anyone, like life comes in waves. I think it's cool that you've been candid with that perspective that you've got there, because it's kind of made me go, am I being honest with myself about how I feel going into the new year? Because so like,
how do you feel?
You know me, I am not like a big planning goal setting man. Like I like riding the lightning, so to speak. I like deciding to do things and then just doing them straight away, or sort of deciding on the whim, like just dialing my hyper focus and going. And it's sort of made me this year, like I think I'm sort of absorbing and reflecting the excitement I'm feeling from people in my community in terms of like the lads and ladies in the classes. Everyone's keen to fight in the new year, that sort of thing. But now I'm sort of thinking like, how do I feel about this year? Because this year was an interesting one. Like, so one thing that, you know, that like you and I both love music. And when I was thinking about this, you know, like Spotify Wrapped. Okay, here we go. This was probably the first year where I've had where my Spotify Wrapped did not give me like the most happy, crushing, nostalgic feeling. And one of the reasons I think it is because this year I saw the least amount of live music that I've ever seen. So like Splendor in the Grass wasn't on this year, which I go to every year. I love going to that thing. I saw less bands than I had, aside from like the COVID years when there was no shows on. But I realized that all this nostalgia I usually have at this time of the year is like, it's like not there almost, because I don't have these memories of going to shows with my friends as much. So that was a weird one, because I've accomplished a lot of cool things this year. Like I got engaged is the biggest one. Like I'm frothing on that, and I'm so like that's like that thing that's made me like like the happiest thing that's ever happened to me. But at the same time, I'm like there's this little sting of where it's like my Spotify Wrapped didn't give me any nostalgia. What the fuck? It really bothered me. You know what I mean?
It's so interesting.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
End of the year is weird.
And so, like, how do you feel going into this end of this year? Are you wanting to take some time to rest, to reevaluate, to set up plans for the new year, or are you just going to kind of like go with the flow, or like have you not thought about it yet?
I think no, I have thought about it. I think what I want is more background goals this year for myself. So what I mean by that is, I've gotten a mate of mine to like make me a weights program. And I'm like, oh yeah, I just want to keep getting stronger and get a little bit bigger this year. So that's like a background thing. That's not going to be the way that I conduct myself like every second of every day, but it's like a background thing that I can sort of put on the list and do every day. I want lots of little things like those. I bought tickets to go and see the presets with my mates in January.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, so there's a little another thing that I can sort of look forward to.
Hang on a second. What? Didn't I say that if the presets were ever going to come, we need to go?
I don't remember that, but we'll go. We're going.
What date is it?
It's like January sometime down in Brunswick Heads.
Oh, dude.
We're going.
I need to be on that one.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
I need to be on that one.
It's on. I haven't even sent it to everyone yet. But yeah, like just, I think little things like that. I think more goals in this new year will be good for me. Mm-hmm. And you know, also like changing my thinking, I think. Like we've last couple of weeks like talked a lot about our plans for CMBT in terms of marketing and events and collaborating with all the awesome other brands and retailers that we get to work with. And we've talked about how it's important to us this year that we're getting ahead and we're working backwards instead of just doing everything on the fly, which we are good at, but like changing in that regard, I think will be refreshing.
Yep.
And I think doing things that are refreshing is important.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. I think this is where I think that like the yin and yang is so important, and this is where I think like you need people that have different minds, different thought processes, different desires, different ways of looking at life around you, because like in so many ways we're so similar, and in a lot of ways we live opposites. And I think that that's so beautiful. Like, you know, I think like if we're going to achieve any success, we need to be planned and all those sorts of things. But sometimes doing things on the whim and stuff like that, the best stuff happens.
No, you're definitely right.
Like, same goes with like, shit example, but like, sometimes when you plan a party, it's like not so good.
Yeah.
But sometimes where you're just like, one day it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and you're like, guys, let's just go out.
Yeah.
It's the best night ever.
Best shit ever.
Like,
exactly.
you know what I mean?
It's funny how shit like that happens, eh? It's listened to that Jocko Willink book, Extreme Ownership, and I think you might have come unplugged there. There's this passage where he talks about how Jocko, for those who don't know, Jocko Willink, how do you say it? Anyway,
Willink.
He's a former Navy SEAL / author, and he talked about how the SEALs used to go into their targets' houses in Iraq or whatever. They'd clear the house, and then they'd have to, you know, search for whatever intel, and they used to just like bomb these houses, like pull them apart completely, like looking for everything, like tear them to bits, and there was no method to it. And then, you know, rooms were getting missed and stuff like that, and valuable intel was getting missed. And so he said that once they set a system in place, you're this room, this room, this room, this room, and we work in the system. Once you've got a system in place and a framework to do things, that's when the creativity can happen within that. When you're working in the system, that's where things can chop and change. Because if it's just chaos, then it's just like paper flying everywhere and you're trying to grab what you need out of it.
I think that's so applicable in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like literally today in this morning's wrestling class, we talked so much about like how strongly we felt about our foundational system, and that now allows us to start layering on top of that foundation to be creative.
You have to know the rules before you can break the rules.
Exactly. Yeah. And then like you were talking about before about wanting to include some little things within your life, some little goals that you want to achieve, but it doesn't need to be the everyday type thing.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, what I hear from that is, you know, you have a desire to create some sort of a foundation. You know, it's your career, your relationships, your finances, blah, 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 your health and things like that. But then once you have an idea of where all of those things sit, which is essentially the foundation of your human being, now you can start layering things, and you can start to like play around and break some rules a little bit. And,
for sure.
And I think that goes with anything, you know, like so many people come into the gym and want to learn how to punch and kick and strike, and they want to do the flashy things. And the flashy things come once you've got a foundation, like you said, and you understand all the rules and things, and now you can start to break them and start to be creative.
Yep.
But if you're lacking the foundations, then, you know, it's anytime you're challenged by someone that does have strong foundations, like you don't have much of a chance. And I think that's the same in business, it's the same in life, it's the same in relationships, it's the same in all of those things. So like that's a cool concept in itself, and a cool way of like looking at anything. Like, what is the foundations of what you're doing? Are you ticking all the boxes of having a strong foundation in that? Maybe now you can move on to something else.
Yeah.
And it's the same as like so many young guys, especially the guys. I guess that's what I can relate to and see being a guy, but I'm sure that young girls are going through it too. Just feel like they're entitled to success, but they have no foundations of skills, experience, wisdom, relationships, network. But they still just think that because they're on the face of the earth and because their parents told them that they were special, that they now deserve the success that someone that has gone through a million wars has achieved.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's another way of like sort of like sharing a reference to this concept. Like a lot of people don't even realize they haven't even done the foundational work to achieve success in their life. let alone anything else. That's something that I'm seeing a lot at the moment, more so than ever.
100%. I think like it's such a valuable thing to sort of have an understanding of how to set up like a system that you can, like the foundations that you're talking about, that make up the base layer of what you're trying to achieve, and then all, you know, the jabs and the 1-2s are at the bottom and the cartwheel kicks are at the top.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't build a cartwheel kick on when you can't throw a 1-2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I think just even the way you're describing that is showing like a really cool way of thinking, of being able to sort of take a step back, see all of the pieces of the puzzle on the page, and then start building a foundation and start building your structures around it. And I think that ways of thinking are skills that we all need to unlock so that we can then problem solve to find the answer to things. Yeah. For example, humans discovered or created mathematics and physics to then create assumptions or get results for what's happening in space.
Yeah.
So we're doing the same thing, sort of, in our mind, in building a system and a structure for mixed martial arts. But you can do that with anything. You know, you can do that with having an idea of a product in your head, to creating it, to getting it sort of distributed out in the world, and for people to see it. The same way of thinking that you just said then is the same way that you create a success for a business. And the reason why people in businesses hire people from uni is because uni is basically designed to make people or help people problem solve and find a way to problem solve. And so that is sort of like the probably the single most important sort of skill that, you know, I would look for in someone that we're hiring to come into a business, is their ability to see a problem that they've never experienced before or don't have the answer to, and then commit a framework of thinking to that problem to find an answer and some actions as a result of that. You don't have to go to uni to do that. Uni is an expensive way to do that, but the way that it's designed and structured is that it allows you to develop those skills along the way. But I think the one thing, if you're looking to get ahead and you just don't know how, it's just like building that framework of problem solving. And we talk about it a lot, but the art of learning, which is pedagogy, the term pedagogy, which is whole part whole, is a great way to start. Look at the problem that you've got as a whole, or what you're trying to achieve as a whole, break it down into the parts that you can see, one foot in front of the other, and then build it back up into its whole. And I guarantee you that if you can only see so many parts with your experience and what you can see at the start, just by going through each of those parts, you'll uncover other parts and you'll uncover other parts. And that's, I think that's probably the perfect example of why people think that they can achieve success that other people who have gone through it have achieved. Because they look at their whole part whole, and they look at the parts in between, and they think it's just start a social media account, get a product drop shipped from China, and do a funny video on TikTok, and then I make millions. Yeah. So that's their understanding of the parts. Whereas, as you know, there is millions of parts in between which you uncover along the journey that you keep needing to uncover to then get that whole piece back together. But a lot of people just see what they see. And so I think that's the only way you uncover them is by doing the thing.
And it never ends. And it just goes on.
It feels like it never ends.
It never ends.
Yeah.
There's always something more that you can add to contribute, or something that you can understand better for whatever sense it is that you're doing. 100%.
So did you have any other questions that you had written for me? I'll tell you what I'm thinking about at the moment.
What are you thinking about?
another lesson that I think is a cool one to end 2024 with is not counting your pennies before they're in your bank account. So like
elaborate.
Yeah, and that saying could go for like in many different ways. It could be that exact example that I just gave, where maybe you think that you're coming into some money, or you're thinking you're going to sell a business, or you're thinking that you are going to get some sort of contract or something, and then you start almost in your own mind living the future life that you think that you're just about to transition into once you receive that money. But then it doesn't come.
Yeah.
And then are you prepared for the outcome if you didn't get what you were planning to get? And that's something that's happened to us. So one of our businesses, we were very close to being acquired, and you start like thinking about all of these things that you're going to do, and then it fell through.
Yeah.
And lucky enough, we've sort of been through it a few times, but I did think about it as well, as if I hadn't been through it before, where I was like, wow, this would be a real blow, real psychological blow, a confidence blow, self-esteem blow, just a life blow in general.
Yeah.
And if you're not prepared for it, like you could go down a dark path from this, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah.
But what it made me think was, in anything in life, you have to work with other people to get ahead. In anything in life, there is always someone in a position that has to make a decision for you as to whether you move forward in your lane or not. And you can say whatever you want. You can say, no, if I'm a business owner and I do my TikTok and I build this business, no, there's always, forever, going to be a situation where someone controls your destiny in a small way or a big way. Could be manufacturers, could be whatever, regulations, someone that's sitting behind a desk that stamps whether your product is fit for purpose or not.
Yeah.
There is always someone who, distributors, retailers, there's always someone who makes the decision whether you can progress or not. And so the moment that decision goes into someone else's hands, it's out of your control. You can say that you've done everything in your power, but ultimately it's out of your control. And so you need to then, if you're in one of those situations, you need to be prepared for both outcomes. And I think a lot of us only prepare for a single outcome, the one that we want and the one that we're aiming for. And if we don't get that, then we don't know.
People hate to think about that shit.
How often do you hear someone say, I've only got a plan A? I don't have a plan B, because why would I want to fall back on that?
Yeah.
I actually disagree. But I think you need to be mature enough to be able to live in both. What I mean by that is you need to move forward with your plan A like it is your only plan. But you need to have the maturity that the moment that something's out of your control and it doesn't move the way forward that you want it to, that you do have other options and other pathways that can happen if that main pathway doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so, like, if we're talking about, we're sitting in a martial arts gym and we're talking about fighters. This is an example. And I was talking to one of the managers who was a fighter themselves as well. I was talking to Elliot Compton about this recently, where a lot of the fighters will have this mentality where they need to go on the dole and they need to quit everything to become a full-time athlete, not make any money to achieve their goals, because it's only plan A. But not only are you sacrificing skills and experience that you could be building outside of these martial arts walls and the times that you're not training, but also value in you as a human with skills and everything, where if your plan A doesn't work, you're not falling back on nothing. You're not falling all the way far down that tree to the point where you've got nowhere else to go. Like, you've also built skills. You've also been able to look after yourself. You've also been able to build a family or whatever it is. Like, you've also built value in yourself as a human further than just the fact that you are a good fighter. And I think things like that are so extremely important, where you should not only be planning for your plan A, but you need to have your plan B, C, D, etc. in mind as well, which doesn't mean that you're putting any less effort or energy into plan A because you have quote unquote fallbacks. It's not that. It's just that you have cushion when you're about to fall from plan A, that you can rebound off plan B and keep moving in the right direction, keep creating success.
And dude, like, I think that there's very few people I know who have only one interest or passion. Like, I think if you put time into at least like multiple of the things that you're interested in or passionate about, then I feel like you sort of open up these doors for yourself in that regard. Like, I don't know if you realize, but everything you pretty much just said was 2 chicken related euphemisms. There's don't put all your eggs in one basket, and don't count all your chickens before they hatch.
Yep.
And I was like, those 2 together is like what you were talking about there. Like, it's
a way better way of saying it. I think I said something for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, but yours was mad. My chicken one was bullshit.
I was thinking about it the other day. Like,
yeah,
because this is why I say martial arts is the best analogy for life.
Yeah.
Because it just is.
It just is.
I was watching some of the boys spar.
Yeah.
And one of the boys was a counter puncher and the other one was a really good, just straight attacker.
Yeah.
And I was like, said to this guy that was attacking, I'm like, all you're thinking about is your attack.
Yeah.
You keep attacking and you keep getting counterpunched.
Yeah.
So you're attacking, but it's great, but you keep getting hit. Yeah. You can't just think about the attack.
Yeah.
You need to think about what happens after. You need to think about what the potential counter for your opponent is based on the attack that you're making to them. Mm. So you need to think about, and it's always a chance. They could do something completely different. But there are patterns. If you identify the pattern, you make an attack, look for your exit. Mm. Or look for your, stuff their space. Find a back door. Clinch, close the gap,
and understand what's going to come back at you.
Understand what's going to come back.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just happen when you're fighting another person. That is what you need to understand in life as well. When you're running a business and you need a certain outcome to happen and you're trying to achieve that outcome, have a couple of different plans, because that first one, if you need it to happen, and the only option doesn't happen, you're pretty fucked.
Yeah.
So make sure that you've got like ancillary plans and other ways to achieve what you need to achieve.
And like the smartest people that I've interacted with, especially like through like our work, always have like, they're so smart and I get so jealous because they're like, well, have you thought of this? Well, have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Like, there's so many things to consider and it's not good. It's not good to get like bogged down and overwhelmed by it. But I think it comes back to planning, I guess. Like, be prepared for every outcome in every sense.
The ones you know, at least, with your experience. Yeah. And then if you have the privilege of working with people who have had the experience, they might be able to uncover different things to think about. But also, to the other side of that is, don't think of things in black and white. Don't be absolute in your thinking. I think that is a mistake that I see a lot of, especially young people, how they think. They think that life is black and white. They think that that life is fair. They think that if they do this, they should get that. They think that everything is a right. Whereas life is grey in everything. You can achieve success by doing the wildest things that don't make sense in a black and white fashion. And then you can just do the black and white things and not be successful. So I think where we spoke about understanding the foundations of things, success has foundational patterns in everything. Understand the foundations, and then you can be the artist, play with your canvas and create whatever you want because you understand the foundations, and it doesn't need to be black and white. and don't let someone tell you that something shouldn't be done that way, because if you see that that has a potential to go the way that you think it can, it probably can. There is a million, trillion, gazillion ways to cut up scenarios and create successes, you know. And once you understand the foundations of how things work and the patterns of success, now you can just do whatever. Create it in any way you think.
The foundation and then the creativity on top. That creative thinking is like so cool and important as well. Like when you have the ability to think creatively about problems and not get stuck in this is how we've always done it, or this is how someone else told me it should be done, which is two ones that I get caught up in sometimes. That's when the best things happen. Like when you give yourself sort of the liberty and the freedom to explore it, like you can get things done any way that you want. Like when you're in touch with your end goal and when you're really connected to the process, like you can make the fucking magic happen.
100%. There's the statement, there's no other statement that tells me more that you want to be stuck in the past or you have no interest in progress or evolution or advancing what you're doing than by saying this is how we've always done it, or this is, you know, those statements that you said before. Like anytime I hear someone say that, I'm like, oh man, damn, like this is what we're working with.
It sucks.
Yeah. And maybe it does work and that's cool. But like, even if you're just remotely questioning whether it works or not, there's probably a better way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think, you know, a little bit of pushback on just like a little bit all the time. Like you can still have respect for the process. But like, I know that you are always encouraging me to think outside the box. Like, yeah, here's the cool way that we do it and it works. But also like, if you've got another way to some other thinking about how this could be done, like do it. Let me know.
Yep.
And that's always just so awesome.
I heard, and this relates to business, it probably relates to other things, but like if your business isn't like breaking, if your systems and operations aren't like breaking down every 6 months, especially at the start, like you're not growing fast enough.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I think we can relate to that.
Yeah,
like every 6 months, like, oh man, like we're bogged down here, or we got a bottleneck here, or there's too much resources being taken up on this thing. Like there's always cracks, there's always breaks, and that we need to constantly keep piecing back together. And that's the chaos of going through a startup business that I think a lot of people struggle to stay on track with, because it's just so chaotic. And it's not like sitting in a chair working for someone in a role doing a particular thing and you becoming comfortable in that role and getting good at it. And now thinking maybe I should start this business because I'm good at this one skill. It's just like, that is like the perfect like representation of what a startup business is. It's just like chaos all the time, and you having to like go through wars or just like fill pipes or like, you know, open new doors, close doors, deal with so many things at once. And it's not for everyone.
No.
And even for people who it's for, struggle sometimes, like me right now. But it's like, man, it's like, it's life.
That's it, man. Yeah. At least it's not boring.
Definitely not boring. I definitely like would love to be bored.
What a luxury, being bored.
Such a luxury. I can't believe it. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But maybe I think like, I don't know if this is the last podcast we'll do for 2025. Maybe it's not. Like, maybe we'll keep going. But like, if it is, like, I hope everyone's had an awesome year. If you need to like mentally think of years as start and stop, and now you get a fresh restart, great, go for it. Like, start strong, start positive, start the way that you want, you know, the next year to end.
Set the bar high.
Set the bar, you know, and don't deviate from it. And you know, like, get some wins.
Fucking oath.
You know, build some foundations. Or if you've got a good foundation, start getting creative. You know, try some new shit. Break some rules. You know, But I appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Thank you for this beautiful gift.
Welcome to the ownership team.
Thanks, man.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what we can achieve in 2025.
2025.
Yep.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.